All right. Mr. Samuel, are you here now? Good. One thing about front-end development is, but forget front-end development. One thing about software engineering in, in total is that this particular thing here, version control system, very important. You need to know it. So if you ever, some of you might probably want to move into other aspects of tech, maybe not only front-end development, you might even want to move into game development, depending on how good you got in front-end development. But for you to do anything, you need to understand version control system. And why? Now, version control systems are the backbone of what? Modern software development, as well as other collaborative fields. Now, they provide a way to track changes to files over time, just like I explained before, allowing teams to also collaborate effectively, revert to previous versions, and understand the evolution of the project. Now, let me just explain something about version control. I told you that you use version control in tracking changes, right? Now, this is what you use them to do. BCS, they call it BCS. Use it in tracking the changes made to your project or your application. Your project, your application, can be web application, can be mobile application, right? Use it in tracking changes to those projects. Use it in collaborating to what? With other developers. And let me take it one by one. So now you've probably seen certain instances whereby you build something, or WhatsApp probably built something, right? They remove that feature, and all of a sudden you're seeing it back. Have you seen something like that before? Now, the reason why you have certain things like that is because there is Git. Now, you don't have to necessarily go back and rebuild again. All you just have to do is what? All you just have to do is what? Okay, it's fine. All you just have to do is what? Revert, isn't it? Revert back to that particular application that you built before. I hope everybody can explain. That's all you have to. Now, that is one thing about version control. Now, as you can see, they helps you what? They provide a way to track changes to files over time. This files can be what? Application, allowing teams to collaborate. Now, do you understand how they track changes to files now? Meaning that what they create, there's a particular way whereby you can know what you worked on at a particular time. Okay, I worked on implementing a search bar in my application. You know when you worked on this, you know the codes you wrote. You understand? As at that time. So you don't have to necessarily go back to your code, start searching through thousands of lines. But if you upload all of your projects on Git or on GitHub, what happens? You understand that okay, at this particular point, this is what I worked on. You understand it now? That is what version control is. Okay, version control system does. Now, the second thing, allowing teams to work, collaborate effectively. Now, there is a reason why you have developers in Twitter in Nigeria and developers in Twitter in the US, and then they are still collaborating on making Twitter work effectively, isn't it? You have developers you probably have Google developers all over the world, right? But they have one major goal, making sure that Google works effectively, right? Now they are not on the same system; they are on different systems, isn't it? Now that is what Git does. Git allows you to collaborate effectively on projects. So now I can be given a task to work on. So let's use web development as an example. I can be given a task to work on the home view of a particular web application. You can be given a task to work on, let's say the shop view, maybe your card, your payment history. You just want to work on that. Like we have two different tasks, isn't it? But one application. That's basically what Git helps you do. Now with Git, I can work on my own version of the application. You can work on your own version of the application, and then we can connect it together with all. That's basically what it does. Now, Git, version control system. Now, under version control system, we now have something called Git. Git is just an example of what a version control system, and that's what we're focusing on. Now, so revert to previous versions and will understand the evolution of the project. Now, version control, also known as source control, is a system that records changes to a file or set. Okay, I think we've done this. So now, basically, what it does, I need to check it out. What does it do? First thing is what? What does it do? Tracks changes. Second thing is what? Revert to the previous version. Now, every modification of the file is recorded. And why is it recorded? Because you can always want to go back to it. You understand? For you might even want to revert back to it, but you might want to use that reference for your future project. You understand? It basically saves the changes to your files. So you know every change you made to that file. You understand? Now, what am I saying? So for instance, now you're working on a particular project, right? You saved it on Git. Now you come back to that project, you remove something, save it again. Now, those you remove something from what you saved previously. The one you saved previously that everything was complete, and that you remove something, both of them will be saved. So you will have access to the complete code and to the what? To the one that you remove something. Now that's how it works. That's how it works. It helps you what? Track the changes made to your file. Now, also it helps you what? Collaborating on effectively, understanding the project history. Just like on WhatsApp, now you know the project history on WhatsApp. Before, when WhatsApp came out, if you want to wish someone happy birthday, what to upload the person's picture on your TV, onto some button from that time. So there's a particular design. Make that design happy birthday. You understand? But right now, what do? You upload the status. Now you see that there is like a change in what? In project history. You understand? Initially, it wasn't like that. But like that, WhatsApp still have access to that history. You don't want to like go back to it, but it's not possible. But that's basically what it is. What version control does that was just track now. Experiment without risk. Now, this part is a part that you might not understand right now, but I'm still going to go into it. So what it does that will say create branches to isolate new features for experiments, ensuring that our main code base remains stable. Now, I'll be going into this in detail when we go into Git and GitHub so that you can understand it. All right, so who has installed Git now? Has everybody installed their Git? Eh? Is it still downloading? Wow. Is it still downloading on your own? Who else is it still downloading on your own? That's downloaded. Have you installed? Mr. Celestine, have you installed? Who else is still downloading? Okay, so we have 2 people still downloading. So and let me just give us quick terminologies in GitHub. I'm just using this to waste time. So wait for the other. Now we have version control terminology. This is one thing that I need everybody to know before we go into it. Now, the first and one of the most important things is what? Repository. What is repository? Now, I'll read their definition and then I'll go ahead and give you my own definition. Now, the central storage, what's the repository? The repository is what the central storage location for all the files and their history within a project. Now, it contains all the versions of the files and metadata about the changes. We'll take it again. Repository is a central storage location for all the files and their history within a project. It also contains all the versions of the files and metadata about the changes. That's what repository is. Now, forget all this English, metadata, history. What a repository is an online folder of a local folder. That's what the repository is. Now, what am I saying? You have a particular local folder right here, whereby you've written everything that you want to write, isn't it? Your repository is now like an online version of this, whereby you take this and then you store it on the online repository or online folder. That's what a repository is. Is it clear? That's basically what it is. Now, one thing about repository, what repository offers that your local repository does not offer, sorry, local folder does not offer, is that number one, it helps you what? It tracks the changes of that particular folder. Now, that's why I say it contains all the versions of the what? Of the files. That means it contains all the changes you've made to that particular file or project or app. That's what a repository is. So it is easier for you to go to your GitHub, right? Check out that repository and see the changes you've made to the file. That's just the difference between your online repository and your local repository, local folder. Is it clear? Do you understand what repository is? Is it clear? Yeah. All right. Next thing, commit. Now, commit is something that we'll be doing a lot in Git. Now, what do you mean by commit? A snapshot of the files in the repository at a specific time. Each commit includes a message describing the changes made. Now, basically what commit is that whenever you probably, let's say, now for instance, we have something like this, right? So let's say you have something like this, right? And let me make a change here. Can we see it? You want to turn it off? Okay, it's dripping. I just turn it off. Or do we need it? Okay, looks like we need it. Just leave it. You can just sit here. All right. Now let me show you what I'm trying to say. For instance, this is a complete project, right? Now let's say you want to make changes in this particular project. And I go ahead and I just remove this out. Now, I've removed this, isn't it? I've commented it out, meaning that it's not going to have any effect again, isn't it? Now, when you now go ahead and say Control S, that is like saying you are committing your message or you are committing your project. So basically what commit means is that what you are trying to save your project to the online repository. Now, don't get me wrong, Control S is not a way to commit. Control S is, to save files, isn't it? Saving files in your local repository with Control S is just the same thing as what committing your project to the online repository. I'm saving this particular version of my project to GitHub or my online repository. That's what commit does. Now, but for me to save it, I don't need to give you the message. That message will now describe what I did right there. Now, what did I do here? I removed what? The main bar. So that's what I did, isn't it? That's a commit message describing what I did so that it is easier for you whenever you go back to GitHub to know what you did when you were making that commit message. I hope it's clear to everybody. Good. Now, that's basically what commit is. Now, there is a reason why I'm taking this thing one by one. Naturally, I will not do this. I will just go ahead and start writing code. There's this why I'm taking this one by one. Now, we have something we call branch, we have merge, and we have what? Conflict. Now, all of these things, I'll send you this link. You can go ahead, read it out on your own. But all of these things are very, very important with Git. Now, has it downloaded now? So we can move on. Have you installed it? Yeah? You don't need, that's not downloaded. Okay. Thank God in advance. Has it downloaded? Just keep clicking next to the installs. Now, let us go into the main thing with Git. So since everybody has installed Git, what I want you to do is, okay, 1 minute. I think there is configuring Git on VS Code. Forgotten the line. No, let me All right, so let's leave this first. Have you been able to install it now? That's still not installed. Wow. All right, so you can just listen, just follow through with the class. You definitely understand it. So, okay. All right. So now let's go ahead and check this place again. Now, one thing I need you to know about Git is you need to know quite, you just need to understand the basics. First, right now, I'm not going to bother you about, okay, today, I'm just for today. I'm not going to bother you about, understanding what we mean by, what's the name, branch, or, the other aspects of it. What I'm just going to do today is I'm going to make sure that you understand those basic aspects of it so that it is easier for you to follow through. Now, I'm going to get started on the basic Git command. Now, but before I do that, I need to link everything together. I need you to understand how version control system, how Git came out of version control system, and how GitHub also what came out of what Git. I need to understand the correlation first of all. Now, the first thing is what I said, we have version control system, isn't it? And I explained what version control system is, isn't it? Now, under version control system, we now have Git. Git is a technology under version control system, which means it does basically everything I explained about version control system, isn't it? Now, but you cannot just write Git, or you cannot just use Git without having like a server where Git applications are stored. That is what GitHub is. Now, GitHub is like a server, like a hosting. Let's just say hosting or a server, whereby you host all of your Git applications, or you host all of your projects with Git. Git is the technology. GitHub is the application, whereby you use what in hosting your projects with Git. Now, that's why I said first of all, create GitHub. Now, if you've created your GitHub, I need you to open up your GitHub account, github.com. And if you're on GitHub, you should have something like this. Can we all see this? You should have something like this. So probably yours is probably empty here because there is probably don't have a repository. Now, what I need you to do is click on new. Can you see new on the left-hand side here? Create a good. Just click on new or create a repository. Click on it. Now, if you've clicked on it, you should see something like repository name, description, choose visibility, admin, add git ignore, add license. Good. Now, your repository name is like the name of your project. So if you are building an e-commerce website, you can write e-commerce. But right now, what I want you to do is what? Use first project. You say? Yeah, there's you can change it later. You can change it later. You can change it later. So just give your repository name anything. You can give it first project or first tech edu project. Use first project. I've used first project before for the previous batch. So you can use first tech edu project. Now you can also give it a description. Description basically talks about what that app you are creating is all about. But leave it. We're not all about description right now. If you then you can see choose visibility. Visibility is you saying, oh, do I want to make my repository public or private? Do I want to make it accessible to people, or I want to make it accessible to only me? Now, if you are working for organizations, there's every tendency that your repository will be private, because you do not want your code to be leaked. Once people get your source code, they can, recreate your company. So basically, they make it private. But right now, you are building for people to see you. So make it public, because nobody wants to hire you without proof of work. So make sure that it is what? Public. Then private, probably a project you know that you don't want to share the source code, but you still want people to see the result. No, that's where hosting comes in. You will get there. You understand? You have a question? Okay. So now, one thing is that there are sometimes that you want to build projects that are private. You don't want anybody to see it. It does not matter even if it's for company or for yourself. You don't want anybody to see it. Now, cases like that, you still can share your link to people for them to see it. But then you don't want people to have access to your source code, because, of course, spend days, weeks, months, sometimes probably a year to build a project, and then to give it up for free like that. It's not possible now. You understand? But in some cases, you want to make it public, because sometimes you just build things, you don't care. You just want people to know how I can build this thing. You understand? I am it. But sometimes some projects are very, very private. For instance, you are trying to build a startup for yourself. You don't want to make sure that that project is public. Because if it is public, people will steal it. Your startup will be gone before you even start. So that is one thing that you don't want people to see. Now, when it comes to add readme is like readme. When we talk about readme is like a description, so not just a description like this, just a normal description. Readme is like a total description of your project. Okay, now what readme does, readme can talk about how your project works, how your project can be launched. You understand? That sometimes that, yes, you built something, but you want other developers to also know how you built it. And now they can also run it on their own system. Now, readme is perfect when you are in a company. So, for instance, you build something on your computer, right? And you want another developer in that same company to work on that same project. Now, you can give them a readme. Readme is like a documentation. Okay, this is how I built it. This is how you can run it on your system. That's what readme is. But for now, we're not going into readme. You can just leave it off. Now, git ignore. Okay. I just explained it. Description is just talking about what the project is about. README is like a more detailed info, documentation of what the project is about, how to run the project, how the project works, how the project will work on your laptop when you run it. That is what README. README is like reading everything about it. It's not just the description. Now, the next one is what? Git ignore. Now, git ignore, just like the name, tells Git the files to ignore. Now, when you probably get to React, you understand that there are some files that you want to ignore. Why are you ignoring them? Number one, they are too large. So maybe you've heard of node modules before. Node modules are too large. Probably have node modules about 500 MB. So if you have something about 500 MB might look very small based on data. But when you are uploading 500 MB to Git, it can take hours for it to upload. And now, it will also be taking your space on GitHub. Now, one thing is that, yes, GitHub is free for now, but I'm hearing of, I think there's something that there's particular news that's coming up. So they're saying they want to start allocating storage to users, right? Whereby if you've exceeded that storage, you have to pay. You understand? Now, imagine you uploading node modules every single time. Your storage gets filled up very fast. You understand it now? So basically what GitHub does is that what Git ignore helps you ignore those files. Now, the first reason is for the large amount of files, isn't it? Second reason is that you don't want to share some certain secrets. Now, what do I mean by secrets? So for instance, there's something we call API. I've explained API before. You don't want people to have access to your API key. Because if they have access to your API key, they can attack your company, or they can attack your project, or they can even take your project from you. So you want to guard it. So Git ignore can help you make sure that your API and node modules are not uploaded to GitHub. Yes, they are still in your project, they'll still make your project work, but they don't necessarily have to go uploaded to GitHub. You understand? That is what Git ignore does. Now, these things are things that of course, we'll definitely get into. But for now, I want you to understand what they do. Now, license is not really that important. Probably like trying to license your project. You can be owner of this project, or Microsoft is the owner of this project, or this is the owner of that. So if you click on it, you can see MIT. So if I put MIT license, I'm trying to say that okay, MIT is the owner of this project, which is a lie. So I'm going to remove it. So no license, you understand? That's basically what license is all about. So now go ahead and click on create project or create repository to have your first repository. Now, if you click on create project, you should see something like this. Confirm if you can see this. If you've clicked on create project, you should see something like this. Can you see